much. And really what we have seen lately is violence plaguing our schools here, and learners killing each other and killing their teachers. So would really like to hear from you this afternoon as to what do you think should be done to curb violence in school, or what different approach is needed in order to curb violence in schools. We have heard, of course, this conversations before on the channel here, but really we need a different approach. And what do you think that particular approach could be? At SA_SABC is our Twitter handle, but you can also send through your voice and video comments to our WhatsApp number. The number is 081-732-8421. And of course, that takes us to the next discussion. As we said, that today is a very significant day in the history of our country, wherein on this day there was a series of demonstrations and protests led by black school children in South Africa. This, of course, began on the morning of the 16th June 1976. Students from numerous Soweto schools began to protest in the streets of Soweto in response to the introduction of Afrikaans as the medium of instruction in local schools. It is estimated, however, that about 20,000 students took part in the protests that were met with fierce police brutality. And as a result, the 16th of June is now a public holiday in South Africa and has been named Youth Day. 43 years later, as I said on my introduction, that schools have been plagued by violence where learners are killing each other and killing the teachers. The question is this what the class of 1976 fought for? Let me now welcome my first guest in studio, the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education, Mhlanga. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Afternoon. Thank you so much.
And I suppose I cannot say Happy Youth Day to you, but Happy Father's Day.
yeah. Thanks for that one. But for the other one, we should continue to remember the reason for that protest that really turned around the direction which the country took since 1976.
But looking back at the developments in our schools, Elijah, overall it looks like some young people in our schools do not really have a reason to celebrate today.
Well, they don't. I think the fear that is now there because of the violence that has taken place inside and outside the school premises is a major cause for concern. I mean, we have learners now who are fearful of going to school, but also have teachers who are fearful of going to school because they're afraid of what their learners might do. So it's a complex situation that really needs everyone to intervene in, and we should all work together to make sure that we address it. It's not just affecting the school community, it's affecting communities and society in general.
But talk to us about perhaps the plans that the Department of Basic Education have, to put in place to ensure safety of other learners. As you say that there is now this sense of fear among learners, and for the fact that one feels like they don't want to go to school, it automatically infringes on one's rights to education.
Absolutely. Our foremost priority is to provide education, to make sure that all learners of school-going age have access to good quality education, but that good quality education cannot take place in an environment where there are guns and knives. If it's not within the school premises, someone will be waiting for you after school. And we have seen some unnecessary deaths taking place in our schools where our teachers have been killed either by being shot or stabbed. And all of that violence is not something that we want to see. But what we are doing is we have a plan, and we have been implementing this. Basically, the time we are in now is not a time for talking about plans. It's a time to talk about implementation. What is it that has been there that we should be implementing that's not working? The plan is there, but unfortunately the plan that we have, it requires everyone to do the same thing. That is, play your role, play your part, and making sure that that document that we have, the integrated school safety document, it must make sense in a manner that will protect our learners. But that means the school governing body must have a school safety committee that will look after the school safety concerns and look after the learners and the teachers alike. Parents must also play their part, come to meetings. Learners need to be disciplined. So everyone needs to be there. The police need to make sure that they respond much more quicker when there's a need for them to go to school. But they must not just go there as a form of a response. They need to honor the agreement that we have with them to go to school, to teach and alert young people about dangers of crime and violence, so that they understand that they need to respect themselves, respect other people, and stay away from bullying others, because it all starts from bullying. And if you can look at all the cases that have taken place, there were always issues between the aggressor and the target, and those issues were not resolved. So you can see that there's something that's wrong in terms of conflict resolution, which then escalates into violence.
Because I wanted to come to that point, Elijah, to say, aren't we supposed to look at what the problem is before we can come up with a plan, before we can come up with what we think could be the solutions to the problem? So do we know, as the Department of Basic Education, you made mention of an important factor, which is bullying, that happens in our schools. So what do you find the crux of the issue to be here?
Well, there are two things. The first one is bullying, which happens within the school premises, and then it escalates, and then the revenge attacks happen outside the school. Some of them happen in the form of fist fights and all of those things within the school premises. But we also are seeing an increasing number of gangs that are operating outside the school premises, where you find that young people, when someone is bullied in school, they say, we'll wait for you outside. And that's what we found at Mondio, that's what we found at Forest High as well, and in many other places, in Polokwane and Northern Cape, Northwest. Everywhere you go, you will find that where they see that the school has strong security, they take their fights outside. So there's something wrong out there in society, that our young people believe that violence is the only way of resolving conflict. If you have a difference with someone, you are not seeing something in the same way, it is not a solution that you need to fight about it, because one of you will die, the other will be injured, and the third will be arrested. And all of you, your life will be wasted. All of you, you will not be able to continue with your studies. There will be grief and sadness in all the affected families, and trauma to all the learners that are in school, something that we don't want to see. So it really needs a cooperation, it needs a concerted effort by all stakeholders, SGBs, the police, church leaders, traditional leaders, community leaders, the learners themselves. So we expect the youth formations as well to speak even more aloud, so that their peers can hear the disapproval of the violent tendencies.
You talk of trauma amongst learners and peers, but there is so much trauma created by all this that is happening to the teachers themselves, to an extent that we've heard Educators Union of South Africa calling on all teachers to be armed when they go to school. Your response to that?
No, that call by that union it's reckless, it's disappointing, and we think that it's also irresponsible. Also because it is a union that is not recognized in the basic education sector. We believe that outrageous call for teachers to arm themselves with guns and all sorts of weapons is uncalled for. We think that is just a recruitment drive. They need attention, and they shouldn't be getting that attention that they are getting now, because what they are saying, it goes against the moral direction that we need as a country. It goes against the law, it goes against the spirit of the Constitution. A school is not supposed to be a war zone, as they are making it, they want to make it out to be. A school is supposed to be a free, peaceful environment where where a teacher imparts knowledge to a learner, and the young people get educated. Yeah,
just in conclusion, I'm going to ask you this question that we posed into our viewers this afternoon. What different approach do you think is needed to curb violence in schools?
Well, we need parents to parent differently. We need to teach our young people, arm them with skills that will help them be able to solve problems without resorting to violence. That's basically it. We need a mindset change.
All right, Elijah, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming through.
Much appreciated.
All right. Many thanks there to the Department of Basic Education's spokesperson, Elijah Mhlanga, giving the department's perspective really on this issue, saying that we need everyone. This is a societal problem. We need parents, we need teachers, we need SGB. So we'll continue, of course, with this discussion. We'll have all other stakeholders in the education sector to hear their views really, and ask the same question that we're asking to you this afternoon. What different approach do you think is needed to do away with violence in our schools? But just before I welcome my next guest,